Welcome to Small Town Whispers, where history, folklore, and the paranormal collide. I'm Bethany Yucuis Borden, and I lived in Watseka, Illinois from 1988 to 1999. For over a decade, I walked the same streets, saw the same houses, and even had friends connected to the story we're about to dive into. This isn't just history for me, it's personal. Hello again. I am so excited that you are back for this week's episode. Not only is it a wild excerpt from the book, but we will also hear some fantastic stories from Neil Gibbons of Graveside Paranormal in Chicago. Neil has been part of seances in the Roth home, and he has led tours through the Roth home and the old courthouse museum in Watseka, Illinois. Now, he has an exciting opportunity coming up for you, or me, to experience these historically haunted locations in Watseka. It's happening in September, but tomorrow, April 11th, you can get signed up. Stay tuned. Now back to the story. While curiosity drove many to visit the Roth home while Larancy was staying there, fear drove others to a Concerned Citizens of Watseka meeting being held at the Methodist Church. The committee had asked Reverend Baker to be the chair, and about 15 or so members showed up to the meeting. They had a common agenda: to lock Larancy up. The Reverend expressed that there is a place for everyone in the community as long as they are normal and productive. He told them that if a member of society falls behind in their mental abilities and becomes a menace to the productive Christian members, that it is their duty to do what is best for the unfortunate individual. Committee members expressed frustration with the new spiritualist doctor in town. They couldn't understand why, even though the doctors deemed Larancy crazy, she would still be permitted to live in town. Further, why would she be at the Roth home? Didn't thinking she was someone else support the idea of crazy? Lavinia Durst was the angriest of all. She said, "If Crazy Rancy Venom is now Crazy Mary Roth, then we have two crazies to contend with, not just one." Someone mentioned that Lorinda Venom said her daughter was doing better at the Roths, better than an institution most likely. Her opinion was shot down. Most of them thought someone was safer being locked up in an asylum than with a spiritualist family. The Reverend and Lavinia made plans to see the mayor soon on behalf of the Concerned Citizens of Watseka. And that is where we return to the book Watseka, America's Most Extraordinary Case of Possession and Exorcism, on page 237. It frightened everyone the first time it happened. Rancy was sitting on a high stool in the corner of the kitchen, watching Anne and Charlotte make mince pies. Frank had gone hunting the day before and shot a deer. After he dressed it and cut up several hunks for his friends, Charlotte and Anne ground the rest of it and canned it for mincemeat. The pies being made today were from the batch that didn't get canned and tucked away in the fruit cellar in the cold corner of the basement. "I wish you would eat some of those pies." Charlotte never called the Venom girl Mary. Anne pretended not to notice. "You've been here going on a month, and not one bite of food have you taken into your stomach. Nobody can survive on that. Not even a spirit like you." Charlotte had almost gotten used to the strange child in the household. Almost, but not quite. She slept with her door bolted and a butcher knife on the chair next to her bed. She also hung a length of sleigh bells around the doorknob before she went to sleep. If anyone tried to force the door open, the bells would ring and she'd be out of bed, knife in hand, in seconds. Neither Anne nor Asa suspected their housekeeper's fears. Charlotte kept a close watch on the food that was served in the house. Laurency or Mary or whoever she was hadn't eaten a thing as far as she could tell, and it had been over a month. It just didn't make sense. Everyone agreed that Laurency looked fine. She hadn't lost any weight. In fact, it seemed as if she had gained a couple pounds. The boys admitted that she looked a lot better now than she did when she first arrived. I was telling Nervy, Anne was saying, that when the weather gets a little better, maybe we will all go to Chicago for shopping and maybe go to the theater. Would you like that, Mary?
Oh, yes, Ma. I can't recall when I was last in Chicago. The boys have a picture book of it, and it looks mighty big. Scary almost.
Mary, do you recall the windstorm that blew down the trees along the river? You were just a tyke then, but it howled and we all thought it was a tornado. Anne kept testing Mary's memory. She was getting used to having her daughter home again. Mary, do you recall that windstorm? Laurency didn't answer. Mary, don't you recall that? The sky got black all of a sudden, and Lucy and I had clothes on the line and they began to blow in all which way directions. Anne looked up from her pie dough at the girl. Mary? Laurency was sitting there, eyes wide and staring around her. She was working her mouth, trying to speak.
What?
Was the only sound that came out. Tears welled up, and as they ran down her cheeks, they unloosened her voice.
Where am I? Where's my ma?
I'm right here, dear, Anne said, wiping the flour from her hands and going over to the girl. What's the matter?
Where's my ma? I want my ma.
Mary, what's the matter?
Where am I?
She stared at Anne, and then at Charlotte.
Where am I? Who are you people?
I'm your ma, Anne said loudly, and this is Charlotte.
No!
The girl jumped off the stool and looked wildly around her.
I want my ma, and I want to go home.
Oh, my God! Laurency is back! Charlotte took several steps backward towards her bedroom with the protection of the closed door and the butcher knife. She looked at Anne.
I want my ma. Please tell my ma to come get me.
Anne quickly untied her apron and tossed it on a chair. Charlotte, go fetch Mr. Roth at the office. Tell him Laurency is back and she wants to go home. Charlotte just stood there, staring. Go ahead. Have him come as fast as he can. Laurency moved out of the kitchen and into the hallway. She kept looking at the walls and the floor, seeing them for the first time.
Where am I? Where's my ma?
She looked in through the front parlor doors and called,
Ma? Ma, are you in here?
Then she turned and saw Anne right behind her.
Where's my ma?
Your ma left you here for a few hours, Laurency. She'll be after you in a little while. Now why don't you just go upstairs to your room and calm down till she gets here? The girl shook her head.
I want to go home now!
Anne reached for her, but missed by inches as Laurency ran down the length of the hallway and yanked open the front door. She dashed out into the cold March air. Rancy, come back in here! You'll catch your death out there! The girl turned around, took one more look at Anne, and jumped off the porch into a snowbank that had drifted against the house. Anne hurried down the steps, ran beside the porch as best she could in her full skirts and high-heel boots, and caught the girl just as she tried to right herself. Laurency pushed her away and, lifting her dress, started plunging through knee-deep snow straight across the lawn toward the street. Anne kept right after her, following in the path she was clearing. Laurency, please, Anne pleaded. Come back into the house. Nothing is going to happen to you. Come in and wait for your folks.
I don't know who you are. Please let me be. Let me get back to my ma.
Laurency, please. Please, Laurency, listen to me. Listen to reason. The girl continued her knee-deep plunges into the heavy snow until she came to the edge of the lawn. From there, the property sloped downhill, down to the street where piles of snow had been banked in layers to let people and horses move freely. Lorancy took one last look at Anne, then stumbled into the snow, rolled down, and thudded against the deeply packed mounds of ice, dirt, straw, and manure. "Lorancy!" Anne screamed and slipped, tumbling down the embankment after her. She rolled right next to the girl. Lorancy didn't move. Anne forced herself to her feet. With hands that were already numb and cold, she tried to lift Lorancy, but she was too heavy. No matter how she struggled or pulled, the girl didn't budge. Anne began to cry, in anger now more than anything else, and kept pulling at the girl's clothing. "Please, Lorancy, please get up, please." "Anne, are you all right?" She heard her husband's voice and looked up. Asa and Charlotte were coming up the street in the buggy. "Are you all right?" he shouted again. "Yes," she managed to call. "But hurry! It's Lorancy! She's out here and she seems unconscious." Asa rode swiftly until he was beside the two figures in the snow. He jumped out and Charlotte was right behind him. They picked up the girl. Asa threw his lap robe over Lorancy and then helped Anne inside. He put another robe around her shivering frame. "Are you all right?" he questioned. "Yes," she said through chattering teeth. "Just get the girl into the house." Asa slapped the reins, and the horse took off, heading down the street and turning into the driveway and up to the rear entrance of the house and the warm kitchen. Someone in a horse and buggy sat watching from across the street. The woman quickly jotted down notes of everything she had just seen and heard. These notes would come in handy. She slapped the reins and her horse turned back toward the center of town. After she finished her shopping, she'd stop by the church and tell the Reverend Baker what she'd seen. He would be impressed with her detective work. But then, he was always pleased with any information Lavinia Durst gave him. Lorancy slept all afternoon and into the early evening. They hadn't notified the Venoms. It wouldn't have done anything except cause more confusion. Besides, Mary had ordered the Venoms not to be allowed back into the Roth home until she said it was all right to return. Now, as they sat watching the sleeping girl, they wondered who would return when she awoke. Would it be Lorancy or Mary? It was Mary. She rolled over onto her side, opened her eyes, and looked at the Roths. She breathed deeply, more like a sigh, and smiled at them.
"I'm sorry. They wanted to test the body. I tried to tell them I didn't think it was ready yet, but they insisted, so I stepped out, and she came back."
She reached out a hand and put it over Anne's.
"I'm sorry, Ma. I really am, but I tried to tell them."
"That's all right," Anne replied softly. "Your father and I are happy just to have you back. You frightened your ma, but we're glad you came back to us. We would have missed you if you hadn't."
"They may do that from time to time. This testing, I mean. I really don't have no control over it, so don't be surprised if it happens again."
"What do we do?" Asa didn't like the idea of today's scene being repeated. "I mean, we can't keep you locked in your room like the Venoms did, and I can't endanger my family."
"It won't be so bad the next time. They've already explained to Lorancy what happened and where she was when she came back."
"How do you know that?" Asa asked.
"I was there when they told her. The body was here, asleep, but Rancy and I were over there together. It was strange. It's the first time we've had a chance to talk."
"Well, I don't understand," Anne said. "If you weren't in the body, and neither was Lorancy, who was taking care of it? I mean, they didn't just let it lie here, did they?"
"Oh, no. There was somebody in it. One of the other people over there who does these things."
"And what if that person had woken up and not known where he was? Wouldn't that have been worse?"
"Oh, no, Pa. He couldn't have woken up the body. His job was to keep all the parts functioning, but he can't wake it up and make it move and talk or anything like that. No, don't worry about that. Lorancy and me are the only ones that can use this body. Unless, of course..."
"Unless?" Asa asked.
"Unless one of those other people, like that awful Hogan woman, catches it at a weak moment. But that ain't likely to happen." "Anyway, I'm hungry. Let's see what Charlotte has in the kitchen."
"Hungry?" Anne was delighted. "You mean you're going to eat something?"
"Ma, I'm going to eat everything. I'm starved."
The entire family stood around the table watching Larancy eat as if they were watching a traveling minstrel show. Anne insisted on doing the cooking herself, starting out with scrambled eggs and a thick ham slice, and ending up with 2 glasses of milk and a large piece of the freshly baked mince pie. That night, when everyone was in bed, Charlotte pushed her chest of drawers up against her door. It would be one more safeguard when the Crazies started attacking again. Lavinia stayed after the service the next Sunday to remind the minister of the scene in the snow on Friday. "I tell you it was a disgrace. That poor Anne Rolfe, aged and infirm as she is, out there bareheaded and bare-shouldered and trying to get that girl onto her feet. My heart went out to her. It really did. I believe you. It was a scene that would have melted many a Christian heart. And so unnecessary. I mean, if they hadn't interfered the way they did, poor Anne wouldn't be in this situation right now. But no, Asa and his crazy imported preacher had to have it their way. I tell you, Reverend Baker, that girl is doing more damage over there than she ever did in her own home." "Didn't you volunteer to help poor Mrs. Rolfe?" he asked. "Just as I was about to do so, Asa came down the street lickety-split in his buggy, and with that German woman who works for them. You know, that nice Charlotte Wiedner who comes to church sometimes?" He nodded. "When I saw Asa and the cook had it all under control, I didn't get out of the buggy. But I was about to." "I was about to. I'm sure you were," he said. He was in no mood to chatter right now. His sermon on how evil can come up like a March wind had not been well received. Nobody had to tell him. He could sense it by the way the congregation squirmed and the way the men honked their noses into their handkerchiefs. "I suppose the only thing to do is to see Mayor Peters." He looked at his watch. "How about if we call on him together on Wednesday?" Lavinia shook her head. "How about we do it tomorrow?" Better to get it over with. "Tomorrow it is. Here at the church at 11 a.m.? She smiled her agreement. "Then we'll go straight to his store and get this matter taken care of once and for all." There was always an unusual amount of mail and boxes to open after a weekend, and Colonel Peters didn't cotton to people disturbing his Mondays with business that had nothing to do with his bookshop. He could be found every Wednesday at the city hall, and the preacher and the old gossip knew it. Yet they stood there yammering at him about something that was none of their concern. Lavinia had quickly worked herself into her normal level of righteous indignation. "We, the voters of this town, expected more of you than broken promises. I know that I speak for all the concerned citizens of Watseka when I ask, demand, that you do something about this Venom girl." He stopped yanking at a sealed carton and glared at her. "Mrs. Durst," he said slowly, "the last person who demanded that I do something was a rebel officer who surprised me while I was on a mission to Stone River, Tennessee. He came from behind and demanded that I surrender." "What did you do?" The preacher had also been with the Union forces. "I shot him, sir, right between the eyes." Lavinia gasped and thought she would faint, but looking around, she saw there wasn't a comfortable place to fall, so she decided against it. "You weren't getting paid by voters then, young man. You were in the army and had to defend yourself. Now that you are the mayor, you have an obligation to listen to the very people who put you into that office. And who can also take me out. Isn't that right, Mrs. Durst?" "Yes," she said emphatically. "Who can also take you out." "So," he put down the books he had taken from the carton and stared at both of them, "what you are basically telling me is that if I don't recommit this innocent girl, you will have my job." "We don't mean it to sound so crass, sir," the minister said, "but that is the general feeling of the town." "My answer, Mrs. Durst, is no. An imperturbable, unbending, and unmitigated no." "But you can't," she protested. "Oh, but I can. I'm still the mayor here, Mrs. Durst, not you. My word is law, not yours. And while I have the power the people have invested in me, I shall do nothing to harm that child." "But she is a menace." "To whom? Have you seen the change that's come over her in the past month? Did you see what an animal-like creature she was before? Did you bother to try and talk to her? To reach her at that place wherever her mind had gone? Did you, Preacher Baker? Did you even bother to try and help her when her own father had her tied to the wall and beat her when he couldn't control her? Did you try to help that child? I went over there a couple of times, the minister said, but her father chased me away with a gun. I heard about that. Colonel Peters tried not to smile. But did you try again after that? The Reverend Baker shook his head. Well, why not? You were in the army, sir. You have faced guns before. You were even wounded in the line of duty. So why did one little gun affect you so badly? How come you ran from one lone man with one lone shotgun? The minister pulled himself up to his full 5 feet 10 inches. Colonel Peters, sir, I did not come here to be insulted. I served my country in the last great conflict, and I served it honorably and bravely. I will not stand here and allow you to impugn my patriotism. I'm not saying anything about your patriotism, sir. What I was questioning was your bravery. But let it pass. The damage is done. After Tom Venom grabbed his gun, you went along with all the others in condemning the girl on hearsay. All that is water under the bridge, Lavinia said angrily. The problem is now, today. What are you going to do about that Venom girl today? Not a thing, Mrs. Durst. Not a thing. She is living in the Roth household and is on the road to recovery. I have seen her and I have talked with her, and she is vastly improved in every way to what she was a month ago. To interfere now would set her back to her old pattern and eventually lead to her death. But she is crazy, Lavinia insisted. She thinks she is someone else. She thinks she's that awful Mary Roth who died long ago. Is that normal to you, sir? Is that what you call improving in every way? That is what I call improving in her way, he said, and that is the way I must respect. But the Roths practice spiritualism, the Reverend Baker blurted out. Certainly that household is no fit place for a mentally disturbed child. The mayor's face was getting redder. I don't see anything wrong with being a spiritualist, sir. I believe they are also Christians. And as Christians, the Roths have opened the doors of their home to this sick child. Show me the Christian member of your congregation who is willing to do the same. Colonel Peters went back to his pile of books. If you both will excuse me, I have work to do. So you refuse to help? Lavinia asked. I do. I also refuse to discuss the matter any further. She looked him squarely in the eye. Does that mean we have to take matters into our own hands? We can do it, you know. We don't need you. And I don't need you, he said, the red coming back into his face. Please get out of here, or I shall forget that I'm a gentleman and that you are masquerading around town as a lady. The door's that way. Good morning and goodbye. Wow. Ever since we cast voices for Mary and Larancy, I have been counting down to this episode. Wasn't it incredible to hear them both in the same story? Shout out to Sarah and Emily. And what a haunting thought that somewhere on the other side, Mary and Larancy may have truly met. If today's episode left you wanting to step deeper into the mystery, you actually can. The Roth home is available to rent as an Airbnb, and even more exciting, on September 26, 2026, Watseka, Beyond the Veil, invites you to experience the legend for yourself. Spend the day at an event in the Old Courthouse Museum, or, if you're brave enough, join the overnight investigation inside the Roth home. The investigation is limited to just 15 participants, so spots are expected to disappear quickly. Registration opens tomorrow, April 11th at noon Central Standard Time. So the real question is, do you dare to cross the veil? For details, visit the Graveside Paranormal Facebook page, search Watseka Beyond the Veil, or check this episode's description for the link. And now, here's Neil with stories from beyond the grave in Bachelor's Grove Cemetery.
Now, join me under the porch light, the place where memories meet the present and voices from the past still linger in the dark. Tonight, we listen, not to the pages from a book, but to the people who have felt the unexplained and found the courage to share it. Welcome to Porchlight Whispers.
Hi, Neil. Welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, Bethany. I love talking about the paranormal, supernatural. It's what I do. It's how it's roll.
Me too. And I love talking to people who have experience like you. So last time we talked in episode 7, back in 2025, you told us about a seance you were part of in the Roth home. Do you have any updates on that movie, The Seance, or have you been back to the Roth home?
Larry and myself and Diet right now just got through doing the seance too. We don't know where it's going right now. We haven't got anybody to bite on it, to be honest with you. No, but that doesn't mean anything. You learn as you go along, and I always tell people, trust your journey. Not a lot of these film festivals are big about paranormal and supernatural. There is going to be something this year. I guarantee you there.
You are based in Chicago. My family on my dad's side goes way back into Chicago. We're all big Chicago sports fans. His family particularly grew up in Midlothian, Illinois. And I've been hearing about Bachelor's Grove Cemetery and how it's extremely haunted. So I asked you about it, and tell us how you are involved with Bachelor's Grove Cemetery.
Well, Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, how I'm involved with it, it is part of our ghost tours. Just so people know, you cannot go into Bachelor's Grove Cemetery at night. It's against the law. The Cook County Sheriff's Department, Forest Preserve will not allow stuff like that. So I want that to be understood to your viewers. Do not go out there by yourself. I grew up in Mount Greenwood. That's not that far from Midlothian, okay? That's on the south side of Chicago. And who didn't? If you grew up on the south side of Chicago or Midlothian, Crestwood, who didn't hear about Bachelor's Grove Cemetery? I remember back in the 90s, me and a group of guys and girls, we went out there. I think I was only like 16, 17 years old. And there's a story about a caretaker, okay? But I didn't know about the story of the caretaker. I was 16, 17 years old. I remember us going down the trail of Bachelor's Grove and finding this large noose hanging from the tree. Could somebody have just put that up there? Of course. But when I went back and I started really getting my interest going and wanted to do what I do now, I started finding out about the caretaker of Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. It's a story about a guy back in the 1800s who took care of the grounds. And on the grounds, he had a family. He would go out into the grounds and start doing work, taking care of the grass, taking care of the plants. So he went out there and he'd start hearing voices in the woods. Kill your wife. Kill your kids. Kill your wife. Kill your kids. Kind of like Amityville. He starts every single day hearing this, and it's repetitive. And he continues day after day after day, till eventually it drove him mad and he did the act. Where slowly but surely, one by one, he killed his children. Then he killed his wife. He hung himself near the gates of Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. The tree that is over to the south end of the cemetery, there's a tree over there where I saw that news. And I remember seeing that news. But I didn't know about this till later on when I started finding out all these great stories. Could these be urban legends? Sure, they could. There's a lot of stories, but understand something I tell everybody when we go on my tours. No matter what, there's an origin story that began each and every story. There's an ounce of truth to every one of these stories that goes out there. So something happened sometime along the way that caused a lot of these things to happen. But that's the caretaker story that happened at Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. Back in the 1950s and 60s, people started noticing blue orbs of light bouncing around the cemetery. And with that, what's that going to do? That's going to get people interested, and it's going to attract people in, right? I want to see these blue orbs of light. They go out there and they try to open up things that they know nothing about. They try to do rituals back there. What I believe is what is going on at Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. There's a form of possession that is going on in the grounds of Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. Think of it as, instead of a human host that's being possessed, think of it as the land. Because I believe that there are supernatural ley lines that lay underneath that area there. It was once used by Native Americans, the Potawatomi tribe. So after we do that, we start getting people who are getting obsessed. I knew of a guy, he was probably in his late 40s. He lived in a van that was right around that area, where he left everything in life and decided just to live around Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. He's using drugs while he's on these grounds. So what that does is that opens up things for people. And people can believe me or not, and that's fine. Everybody's open to their own opinion. And that's the beauty of doing these things, because there's no such things as experts. But Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, there's a form of possession that happens on those grounds. In 1991, the Madonna of Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. Have you ever heard that story? It's one of the most famous pictures of paranormal, supernatural pictures of a ghost, basically, of a young lady sitting on a tombstone. What the story goes is that she comes back at night because she has a child there. And you hear the child crying. And she cradles the child and walks around throughout the night. And people have seen her. But in 1991, Judy Huff got a picture of her. And I actually, a couple days ago, I saw the original picture of this. And he showed me how the angles were and everything like that. I was so very appreciative of being able to see something like that. And when I brought my research to him, he said, Neil, you're exactly right. I believe it's a lady by the name of Amelia Patrick Humphreys. She was the wife of the founder of Orland Park. They had a little child by the name of Libby. When you go into the entrance of Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, the first tombstone that is your right is Patrick. When you see it, you see the name Libby and how many months she was of life. Even through death, we're still going to try to take care of our children. Now, the tombstone that you're going to see, the Madonna of Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, even though it's not marked, but it's one of the most famous tombstones that's in Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, you're going to see it where she's sitting on there. They believe that's where she was buried, the mother, Amelia Patrick Humphreys. I just found out about that 2 days ago. But Bachelor's Grove Cemetery is a very real place. Yes. It is the most haunted cemetery in America.
Thank you so much, Neil. I cannot wait to take one of your tours. And if anyone out there's in the Chicagoland area, check out Graveside Paranormal. Keep an eye out for the seance too. Now, Neil has a signature send-off, so I'll let him end with this.
And as always, boys and girls, boo.
And pay attention. I wanted to add a little positive affirmation from Neil. I wasn't quite sure where to put it in the segment, but I didn't want to leave these words out of this podcast.
Find something you truly love to do in life and make it into a business, and you're going to just thrive, and you're just going to do very, very well.
That was this week's edition of Porchlight Whispers. Do you have an experience of your own to tell? We want to hear your stories. Share your experience and let your small town whispers become part of ours.
And with that, the porch light dims, but the whispers stay with us. Join us again next time when another voice steps into the light.